Ready?
Yep, got it.
Okay, I'm Jim Williams. I was born right next door here. I've been here for 74 years.
Is that right? And I'm Ray Williams, and I was born next door on the kitchen table 78 years ago, going on 79 years. Born 1926, February the 6th.
And that was March 1st, 1930. Our family, Grandpa Williams came here from Maryland in, I figure out, either late 1898 or 99. And he had 5 boys and his wife. And the first house they lived in was on 2nd Street, right there behind the school building, the first house on the left now. That's where they lived for a little while, and they moved up here to a farm, where it's now Worthington, and the family of Hughes owned it, and he farmed the farm for probably 5 or 6 years. Then in 1907, he bought the property next door, and that was at one time it was the first schoolhouse in the area was built. There was a low cabin schoolhouse built on that, and so then I guess and that's where they stayed until when Grandpa died in 1919.
Did he get out of the Army?
Yeah, got out of the Army. And my dad went into partnership and opened a store in a brick building near the railway crossing across the street from the depot. It's a big brick 2-story building, and he opened a store in there in like 1912 with a man named partners Ernie Moore. Then sometime after that, Ernie Moore sold his interest out to Fred DeBoard. And then Fred, when the war came along and Dad was drafted in 1918, he sold his half of the store to Fred. And some people think that Fred kind of took advantage of the situation. I'm not real sure if he did or not. And anyway, when Dad came back in 1919, he opted not to go back in store business for whatever reason. Then went on, he worked on the railroad now for 37 years or so. Okay, Ray, you have anything you want to add?
Well, you know more history than I do. Now, you must have studied, but I don't know when Fred Board moved that grocery store down on the corner.
I neither know that.
But there used to be this time saloon down there one time, and that's where our mother worked. She worked in there, and I think it was like a, what do you call them?
Right there it is.
Yeah, okay.
So it's boarding house.
Boarding house, yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Mom came in, she worked first, her family came up in 1910. And she was about 13 years old, and she started working in there shortly after that as a maid, cleaning up and things. And she eventually went into became a cook, and she cooked. Actually, she was cooking when the railroads came through in the new railroad came through in 1911, and she was doing a lot of cooking by then and cleaning up. She worked there, I guess, until after the war, and then Dad came back.
I don't know when, like I say, Fred Board and all the Board brothers. There was Fred, Grump, and Charlie, and they must have bought the building. That's where they had their grocery store, their general store. But you know what, Jim? When that store, I don't remember the porch being on there.
They took it off. Yes, they took it off.
Oh, they took it off.
Yeah.
Then I can't remember what year did that building burn down.
1930.
1930.
March 1st, 1930.
I can remember burning down. I stood in the upstairs window looking down there, and you could see the big flame. But it seemed like to me that Jim was later than that, because 1930 I'd be only 4 years old. But when I first started school, and they just had that one little section up there, where Grump's office used to be, and that's where they had their store. And I can remember going down there and buying my school supply, down there.
Well, that been 30. Well, anyway, all I know is that I thought burned earlier, but Roy Mex was there one time, and he told me he said it burned down March 1st, because I remember going down and help fight it.
And I thought it was near that because, like I say, I went to school that first year after it burned down. No.
just the bucket brigade. Well, Britton, he remembers it burning down too, and he thought it was the time I thought it was.
I can remember it burning it down, but I thought I was a little old. My mind must be a little better than I think it is.
Yeah, the Boards ran out. There was 3 brothers that actually called it Board Brothers Store, and I think now people worked there with the Boards, and Charlie was the brother, and then his wife was Joe, and she was the postmistress. She ran the post office and worked in the store.
But Uncle Asa used to run down there, work down there once in a while.
Well, he did.
Yeah, he did.
I saw, yeah.
You remember that?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he worked down there.
That's what my clerk. I read enough Uncle Asa. I listened to his logbook. He worked up at Joe Wally's several times, taking inventory years back. And we had our uncle, I'll get back to our uncle, Ace was, in 1923, he purchased all the land between 3rd and 4th Street, I guess far back as what Shirley Drive now, maybe more than that. And then apparently he must have sold it to a fellow named Philip Condon. And then he in turn built houses for Philip. I felt like he liked the developer, and he supplied the money and Uncle Asa did the building. And so he built at least 15 houses on 2nd and 3rd Street, or 3rd and 4th Street, plus a few more on Toddler Road, and probably in all between 1923 and 1930, 31, 32, something like that.
Did you remember having been back to Philip Condon's house? Okay, he had his little store in there. Yeah. I just wonder if he built them houses, because they were all similar to these.
Well, they were old farmhouses.
No, they weren't.
Well, back there where he built,
one might have been, but where he had that store was like similar to these houses around here.
Well, Philip was an interesting character. He had a house or farm back where the Fountain Road is, and back there about a quarter of a mile. He had to go through, to back, he had to go through Long's Lane and Long's pasture, and he opened up his store back there in the middle of nowhere. There's no farmhouse. It was a general store of clothing and shoes and toys and things.
Little necks.
And he only opened on weekends, and had people from all over go back there. Anyway, they had to go through, I think it was 3 gates to get back there. And people go away, leave the gates open, and Long was always upset, the cows was always getting out, and they, because Long's house was right on Cincinnati Dayton Road. And it set right at the end of, right there where the La Rosa pizza place is up there, and that's where the lane was going back to Philip's place. And Philip was just an old bachelor, never married, and I guess he, I guess he must have developed probably well all the houses here in Moss. He owned it, and then sometimes in the late 30s, when the properties between Central and 3rd and 4th Street was the baseball diamond. That's where we played ball there for a number of years. And then in 1939 or 40, Church of God came in and built a church on the corner, but the ball field still stayed there 4 or 5 years after that.
Originally, the ball field was way on back.
No,
you don't remember that, do you?
No. I remember being right in that corner.
It was back there behind where that little house I had back there.
That far back, I look
here in Cornets.
I don't know that far. As far as I remember, it's always been up there.
Well, I can't remember when it did start there. I was pretty. I can remember they used to have a bunch of brooks out there.
Yeah, the old pile, yeah.
That's where you had a ball over. That was a home run.
Yeah, big old big pile.
Well, tell me about the games you were telling me about earlier. You didn't have enough kids.
When I was a kid, we'd in the summertime, you'd breakfast and you'd run up to the ball diamond, and there'd be 3 or 4 boys there, and if you had 4 or 5, you played a game we called pigtail, where you had a batter and a pitcher and 2 or 3 fielders. And then the batter would bat until he either caught a fly ball off his bat, or you cut the ball in the first hop. Cut it in the first hop, then he was out, and you rotated it up. If you cut it in the fly, never cut would go in and bat. Then as more boys would show up, you would end up having to play scrub. And this would be, you had 3 batters, usually a pitcher and 3 or 4 fielders. Of course, as more people came, you had more fielders, you know. Then they would just run the bases, and just like a regular game. And then and so that particular person got out, then he went in the field, and someone would take his place. Then as the group grew, you end up with 12 or 13 guys, and you come to a team, you've had 2 teams to play, and then if anybody came in, they just joined in with whoever was the last team that man or boy came in. Then the next guy showed up to be on the other team to even things out. And at noon, you went home to eat dinner. You have to go back and watch some more.
Before that, Jim, I had a little team here, and we played Westchester all the time. And Bill Hershey had the team out Westchester. You know Bill?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't? Well, anyway.
He hasn't lived in Westchester 50 years.
She hadn't?
Yeah,
well, I made me, yeah. Bill went to school out to Westchester.
Yeah.
And he was a couple grades behind me, or 1 grade. But a bunch of us kids around here, we get together, and we had a team here at Mudds, and Bill would bring a bunch of guys up from Westchester. And now that we played on a diamond out there, back there by Marco Park, that's where we played.
I don't remember that diamond that far back.
Yeah,
Well, what would happen medically if someone got sick? What would you do?
Well,
that's a good question. We had an old family doctor by the name of Dr. Williamson, and he would come to the house. Now, between these houses here, this woods wasn't out here then. and the creek down there. And Doc, he would come, and he would do his business, you know, look after us. And he would sit out there, and he left his bag of, the old sugar sack full of golf balls over the house and his golf clubs. And he would sit up there and hit them golf balls over the creek down there, and we had to go down and chase them, or we'd chase them. But any time that he come in that house, he would bet Dad, I don't know how much he'd bet him, he could do a crossword puzzle in so many minutes, and he would do it. And he liked to entertain the kids. He'd come in, and he had a little old top, and he'd borrow a pie pan from Mom, and he'd spin that top and do a lot of tricks. Do you remember him?
Oh, yeah, I remember real well. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
we had two doctors. Dr. Williamson was in out of Bethany, and he went and delivered all of us boys.
over there on the kitchen table.
And then another doctor out of Shermanville, was Dr. Hudson, and he related to the Hudson family. You know, around
See, I don't remember him
He came
because
around.
he came after I left here.
You know, he was there before that, but we never used him. We never had him. But,
It's further away.
right. Well, and he'd come to your house.
And I'll tell you, that Doc Williams, he had things so screwed up though. I never had a birth certificate till I retired. Then I had to kind of root around and get it. I had to go through the state. I had to go through probate court to get a birth certificate because he never filed, you know. And he messed him up. And I don't know who else he messed up.
Well, he used to wait till last in December before he filed all the birth certificates at the courthouse. The whole year long. So either forget or he would omit somebody. In my case, he just had the wrong date. In
In my case, he forgot. I was in February. And I had a hard time getting my birth certificate. You have to go through so much to get it, you know.
The rest of the doc would come down to your house, and so sometimes come in. He would. We had a double garage, and he drove a early had 31 Chevrolet Coupe, and he'd come in and he'd pull his car in the garage and shut it up and go and tell Mommy, so lay on the couch and want to sleep for a couple hours, because if he saw your car, he never saw your car. Some kids they went to make a house call, so he went to get a little bit of rest. He would do that occasionally. He would just park his car in our garage and go in the house and he'd tell Mom to wake me up at a certain time. He would be on the merry way. And also was
I wonder when he quit practicing.
He died in 1941.
1941?
Yeah, he died in 41. In fact, I got someplace around. I got his obituary and his picture in there. He was typical. He was like Hollywood, like a doctor. He had silver white hair. He was like Judge Stone's in the Hardy movie. That's what he looked like. And he was really a character. He'd come to the house and like I say, he'd come in and do everything except look at you. I remember one time I was so sick in Elanore, and he came in and he didn't even look at me. He went in and talked to Uncle Asa and talked to Mom, and finally he came in and looked at me. That's what he always did. He always came in and did something else first. Then one year we was having popcorn one night. It's on Sunday evening, and Ray and my other brother John was pretending like putting popcorn in their ears and then nose and everything. No, and I was about 5 or 6, and so I put a kernel in my ear because I couldn't get it out. And so we called Doc, and he came down. He tried with tweezers, one thing and another. And he finally asked Mom if he had a hairpin, and he said, "Well, pop that thing in behind there and pop it out," you know. I remember sitting there waiting on him, holding my head like that, afraid to father in my head, I guess, you know. But he was really
He was a character, really.
How church? What did you do for church?
We went to Presbyterian Church in Westchester. Mom and Dad started apparently after our oldest brother was born, which.
Okay. I got the thing at home. I had to get that when I was getting my birth certificate. And Mom and Dad had joined the church, and I believe Toots was baptized. I might have been baptized.
Oh, you were baptized.
I got it one time, yeah.
It was in February of 1927.
Yeah, right.
When Mom joined the church, and you boys were baptized.
That's
then
the reason I know that. I got a copy of that.
Well, then Dad joined on Easter in 1927. But they were going before that. They must have started going. Now, whether Dad and Mom went before any of the kids were born, I don't know. But anyway, and so we were there. All of us went to church there, and Ernie and I still go. And I was lost my train of thought here for a second. Anyway, Dad and Mom both had their funeral services there and everything. So.
They buried over Brookside.
Yeah. And we had a sister that she was born in 1933. Well, interesting enough, oldest brother was born in 1921. Second oldest was 22, and the third oldest, John, was 30 and 23. Then Ray came along in 1926. There was a 4-year gap when I came along in 1930. Then Ernie was born in 31, and Sister was born in 33. And I was born back on March 1st. Ernie was born in August, and Sister was born March 4th. 33. So 3 years exactly, she had three kids.
Then Frankie came along.
Yeah, 1937.
Is that when he was born?
Yeah, but
yeah, I guess it was when I saw Frankie was only
well, Sister
6 years old.
Sister died in 1935. She got pneumonia, passed away in 35. She was out in July, and I guess Mom always wanted a girl, and then she took it pretty hard. And Dr. Williams told her she might try one more time for it. And she got another boy in 1937. So we had 7 boys. quite a house full.
We had a garden.
Yeah, no, well, Uncle Asa, like I say, he lived with us. By the way, that's the other thing, he lived with us. So this half a block here between 3rd and 4th Street was all garden. He farmed it. Half of it, he kept it in either corn or alfalfa. Then Laura in here, he had a big garden, a huge garden. Of course, with many people who had in their family.
I think there was 2 acres there.
Yeah.
And the only thing that was in there was that he gave the lot to the church over there on the corner, and the rest of it was the garden.
Yeah, he did. That was, I think, he donated that land. I think it was 1938 or 39. That church was built, and so he was. That whole thing was in the garden. Then when Uncle Asa passed away, Dad, they still kept it until the Dad kept. He rented out. He didn't garden the whole thing. We rented out. He divided up and had 6 or 7 lots there that people would rent. And
his mom had a little garden down behind the house there. I don't know. She did. I used to have to spade it, but you used to put flowers, a lot of flowers down there.
7 boys.
Like the one, members, I can remember the boy whenever I said, and one day, Mama said, Ernie and I have to go get all the older brothers there playing ball. And there was an old horse cart up there, horse wagon. It was just a frame. It was one of the kind where the shaft had 2 shafts and the horse was between the trace, I guess you call it. And also the thing would hinge up, could hinge up like this. And anyway, we decided to just come down instead of walking home for dinner, we're going to ride that cart down. So we all piled on it. And one of them started pushing it, and they got, of course, it's a little bit of hill up there. So anyway, we came to that hill, and I can see Mom standing in the driveway. Here we come down this thing, and we crossed the road. And I guess my brother was, he was kind of in front of it, and he kind of holding this thing. He was, he got a little bit, got turned, and somehow we hit a fence here between the 2 houses. I can still see Mom standing down there. This thing coming down the road. I was lucky. I turned the thing because he had to turn it. It was 90 degrees, at least 75 degrees to get in the turn and get into our lot without, hitting anything. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You don't? Yeah, John says you remembers it.
We used to get in trouble once in a while.
How did your father find you?
Never.
He always bragged about it. He had 7 boys and didn't.
I didn't interrupt you, but I got one weapon from my dad, and that was smoking corn silk up behind the garage over there.
Well, I could cut my smoking. He gave us lectures. I don't know. He always bragged about. He never had to spank any of us.
I'll tell you one thing. Jim was too young. I think Ernie was just a baby. He was in a buggy, and we were out here playing. We always played kick the can or hide and seek out there, always every night. And anyway, Mom called us to come in. It was getting dark, and we kept on playing and kept on playing, and pretty soon I seen this ghost come out there, and it was Dad with a sheet over his head. Well, I got to the back steps and I froze. And I don't know, maybe you was big enough then. And one of them jumped, dived in the kitchen door and went under the baby buggy. And 2, he was old enough, he realized what was going on, and that story had been going around for a long time. He got a big kick out of that where he scared us all to death that night. Bubs and John and Pooch and I. And there was one time, we talked about that when we were down at Bub's, where he climbed underneath, there was a shed down there, and had old lumber around, and Bubs climbed underneath there, and somebody caught him under there. I can't remember what we was playing at that time, but then grabbed his foot, dragged him out, and they dragged him across the nail. Yeah, had a big piece across his chest where he dragged across that nail.
But another time, we had chickens, we grew chickens, and this one year we had this rooster. Oh, he was a mean thing. Every time you got out the back and go down the out, had to go down the outhouse, this rooster would come up to you. He would, older people, he kind of attacked. He didn't hurt anything, but he used to tell Mom about it, and she would ignore us. So one day, Frank was about 3 years old. He goes down there, and the thing attacked him and hit him right between the eyes. So next day, Mom called the older brothers out there. They went and chased that rooster down, and we had the rooster that night. I mean, it didn't that very long, but it attacked the rest of us, but it didn't say anything, you know.
You was talking about a garden, but we had, when we were raised up, we had a cow.
Yeah, cow.
Always had 2 or 3 pigs down there, flock of chickens, rabbits. So we was pretty well stocked. And one of my favorite time was really when I was growing up, was in the fall of the year when Uncle Asa would go down there and butcher them pigs. And that was really boy. And then we had the smokehouse out there by the corner of the house, and when they was smoking that meat, man, that was a good smell,
Yeah.
you know.
It always butchered 3 or 4 hogs, and the same thing. We
What'd you do for a freezer?
didn't
Smoke
smoke
them shut through the freezer.
Smoked
Yeah,
or
there's no
later
freezer
on, they used our
We never
salt.
even had a refrigerator. It had an ice box.
Gotcha.
And my oldest brother, too, that's what he worked on the ice wagon.
With Ralphie.
And with
Ralphie ran
Ralphie.
the ice box.
Okay, and
And my older brother
and all
worked
the
in
ice that
summertime.
he'd have left over, they would jump off the house there. But we had a big strawberry patch there across the street, and every night Mom would make strawberry ice cream. And then a big old hand freezer, we had to go down and crack.
2 gallon. Yeah.
We'd have
But
strawberry ice cream.
Sounds delicious.
It was good.
the other thing, talking about, you know, the kids they have a lot of toys and things, and every boy either had a tar they rolled, or he had a wheel you push with the
With the clothes hanger.
it'd be like a number 9 iron or 9 fence, you know, wire. Really heavy wire.
Yeah.
You form a hook and a handle on it, and you push this wheel, this hoop, and you see all the guys running down the street either had a tire or one of these hoops running out. And I remember going down to the store with the tire, you know, getting maybe whatever a couple items to get, and they often they'd say, "How come I be so dumb? I couldn't get back to the hill pushing that tire and go and just, you know, carry your groceries." So you end up either leaving the tire there or you carry it or something, you know. But and there have been
Bicycles?
a few, but most people they built carts. Everybody had carts that they'd use like the wheels of the big buggies and things, and had a bit of natural on and had a, you know, and some of them got pretty fancy. They put a hood on them and everything. And you see guys riding around all, you know, with that. Then too, when we played, behind here was pretty sized woods, and so we spent quite a bit of time back in the woods playing. I think building campsites and one thing and another, and had probably every age group over a period of time. Everybody had a camp back or someplace or another.
Not school.
Well, about school.
Mm-hmm.
We went to
school.
Where?
Westchester Union School,
In school?
12
How'd you
years.
get there?
12 years.
Bus. Walk, bus. Usually, if you had basketball practice, you had to walk home. There was no way to get home, so we had to practice and walk from Chester up here. I don't know, did you catch the bus in front of the house?
Yeah.
But I cut the bus down to Maude. I'd walk
Yeah,
down to
like you
Maude
did.
every day
Like-
when I got in high school.
I can remember earlier before I even went to school, the bus picked up all the kids in mods in our driveway. That was then they gradually, I guess, they started going around the blocks and everything. But I can remember like first day of school and all the kids would be there walking side by getting on. And we got there watching, wish we could go. And when we got to go, we wish we didn't have to, you know. But
Of course, you were there when Carroll Lee was
Oh, yeah.
part of the school system.
Not me.
Not you.
Well, yeah, I was there. He was there, but he wasn't. He was just a agriculture teacher at that time.
well, became became the principal a year after he graduated.
Did he? What,
Yeah.
45, 46?
Yeah, 45. We had had man George Hartman was the superintendent for.
You know, he's still living.
And then our first principal was a fellow out of Gano, and it was Kimball, and he was there for my first couple of years, first and second grade. Then Hartman came. He was there for
Well, Hartman came in 1938.
something like that. That's second
Same,
grade.
he came there same year that Cameron came there, and this is can't even think of her name. The one that taught science. And her homeroom was upstairs, and
Oh, we got
well, yeah, you probably had it right.
I didn't have a female science teacher.
Oh, did you?
Mr. Duck was our science man.
We graduated from high school at Union School.
Pardon?
You graduated from high school at Union?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. Yeah, Westchester.
Was that after or before the consolidation of this school?
And
Four.
my
Independent.
Huh?
Consolidation of Biscuit came in
my
after the
junior
war.
year.
Came in 2007th grade, and that, so that would have been
About 1942?
42,
43.
No, 42, first year of the war.
42?
First year of the war, yeah. That's when and Mr. West was the teacher over at Pisgah, and then he came taught 7th and 8th grade subjects here. And also they had, over the years, they also combined some with the Port Union. He had the combination of both names. And the funny thing is, it was Union, Township School, but the school went by the name of Chester. And all the athletics things, there was always be Chester High. And so when you got any letter for sports, it was C. Or anything up in the school that represents the school, either through sports or some of the other activities, where the letter is C. C-H-E-S-E-R, Chester. That's how you spell it. Here you yell it. And yet it was Westchester. And you look in the papers, and they described all the athletics. It was always called Chester.
Did you get that cut out that Mary Louise had sell at the school down there, didn't you? She was selling them. I thought maybe you got one for down there. She told me she sold about 70 of them.
What's that?
It's a plaque. It's just cut out like the school, and it's got the history of the school on the back of it.
I didn't see business that then.
As you became a young man and started to date, what would a date be like? Where would you go? What would you do?
Date? I never dated. I didn't go with girls.
Okay. Jim,
That's probably true now.
Well, I did date once in a while, but I didn't go study with anybody.
What did you
up in
support union and dance, or?
The school had dances. They had the the equivalent to the PTA. They called it Community League, and they met once a month, and usually they sponsored 3 or 4 dances a year. And the Grange was also
board games there too.
And then 2 individual classes to raise money would have a dance.
But I never went to a dance down there. Did you ever?
Oh yeah, I started after you left. I went. I also do. The thing is, you didn't have a car. So,
go down to Malls on 25, and you suck your thumb out, and you go down to either Sharonville, Ready, or go on downtown Cincinnati. And then you hitchhike back again. It was hard to get a rod, really.
Yeah, it was easy to do that, yeah.
I would do that today. I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, do you remember the whole road?
No.
The little house on there?
I remember the house. It was
Toll house?
yeah.
But that's where the boards lived, wasn't it?
No, it was across the street.
No, the boards used to live in that one.
Then anyway, as the toll house was there, but I can remember we set the Doka Coast Road. We delivered papers. And we had to go there and we made sure nothing was coming. You walked
by there.
About 15 feet. You had to don't have much distance from the.
And I delivered papers. There was a board living there.
That was the whole Mercer lived there.
Oh, is that right?
That's I delivered to anyway.
So we only have a few more minutes left, and so basically, how do you feel your quality of life was from a child?
Great.
He had a good life. The Depression went over. The time he got grown, but I come up through the Depression. Well, Dad, he always had a job on the railroad. He was a foreman on the railroad, and we've always had food on the table. Didn't have. Well, Dad wasn't too flush with the money, he didn't throw it around. When you was talking about ball games, they used to have ball games up there at ball time, and he was talking about to get a popsicle or something on Sunday, the ice cream man come around. Well, you'd get that Sunday, but then you start begging for your nickel for the next Sunday. So that's, but we had a good life. We had clothes on our back. Mom made a lot of our clothes. And I, in the position I was in, I wore a lot of hand-down clothes, And there was I don't know if you remember the Bounds or you know any of the Bowmans. Well, there was about 4 or 5 of them boys. They were all older than us, and they used to. Miss Bowman used to give Mom a lot of their clothes. I can remember a pair of shoes that she'd give Mom. Bounds, they had an orchestra. Did you know that?
Well, I played musical.
Yeah, but they had an orchestra, and they set a pair of shoes up there, and they were orange, and they were pointed toe shoes. Man, I wore them to school one day, and they left me out of school. I never wore them anymore. And by the way, I just cut Herb's hair yesterday, and you know how old he is?
About he graduated 33.
He's 88.
You're gonna say people right.
88.
We worked for the Bowmans. They had 3 farms down there.
Pick up potatoes.
Well, We work
I
on.
want to thank you very much for your time and all your good information, because
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
be getting a copy of this eventually.
Well,
With the editing and that.
We just started. We got
I
a
know,
mark.
it's just getting warm, darn.
That's okay.
But that was wonderful, and I appreciate that very much. I would like to come back maybe sometime and talk about the railroad aspect of Maud.
What's interesting, you know,
That's a big thing here, see.
Yeah.
see, you know, this originally was called Shoemaker.
Oh,
That was in the had a family of Maud. There's a couple of brothers that owned most of the land around Maud back in 1800s, and then they named it Maud after them. And then it became also called, it was called Maudville. When the railroad went through, they named it, made it Mauds. So all the county and everybody on the map, it always was Maud, but all the people who lived here was Mauds, or Maud Station, you know. And I don't know
Most
if that's
everybody lived here, worked on a railroad,
Worked on the railroad.
one way or another.
That's okay, stop.